Hey, book lovers. Welcome to Seriously Sandra, where we get real about books and the brilliant minds behind them. Today, I can't tell you how beyond excited I am to have Anna Johnston. It's so good. We're going to dive into the borrowed life of Frederick Fife, her book, the plot, all the writing magic. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's chat books. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you that it was a librarian earlier this year at my library. I was looking for a feel-good book. I wanted something, and she said, "Have you read The Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife?" And I said, "No." I said, "I saw it on the shelf and it passed by." And she's like, "Here." And she handed it to me. And I am a book pusher
Mhm.
anyway. So when people push books on me, I'm like, okay. I took it, I devoured it in one sitting, and
Oh,
I just adored it. So for those who don't know, can you tell them a little bit about Fred and the Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife?
absolutely. Well, Fred is one of the kindest people that you will ever meet. He's the sort of person that if he borrowed your car, he would return it washed and polished with a full tank of gas. The problem is when we meet Fred, he is desperately lonely, broke, and on the brink of homelessness. And he's 82 years old. But Fred's luck changes when, in a bizarre case of mistaken identity, he takes the place of missing nursing home resident Bernard Greer. And suddenly he has a roof over his head and warm meals in his belly. And he sort of has this new life all of a sudden in this nursing home. But most importantly, he has the chance to become part of a family again. Fred is also an incredibly honest man, honest to a fault, and so he finds himself in this predicament of assuming this other life. But it's a story of redemption, of found family. It's a humorous book. There's also a lot of emotional moments. So I've been told it should come with a box of tissues. Um, but yeah, ultimately, it's a very feel-good story.
What inspired you? I mean, I have so much I can say about it, but what was your inspiration? Where'd that come from?
So the inspiration for the book started with the creation of its protagonist, Fred, who was actually inspired by my late grandfather, who was also
Mm.
my best friend. So he was a man whose unconditional kindness truly changed the lives of those around him. And when he was diagnosed with dementia, I changed career paths and I took a job in his nursing home so that we could spend more time together. And I was the social support coordinator there. So I used to push him down the halls of the nursing home and we would belt out our favorite show tunes. We would have lunch together every day. And we were incredibly lucky that he never forgot his family or the words to songs. And so that time in aged care really, I really found my calling there, but also what would be the setting for my future novel. But my grandfather was, yeah, just an incredible man who's, yeah, as I said, his kindness, even when he had dementia, his kindness to the staff never failed. And a couple of years after he passed away, I brought my newborn daughter in to meet my former colleagues. And one of his former carers took me aside and she said, "I want to show you something." And she brought me to her locker, and inside the door of her locker was a photograph of my grandfather. And she said, "I put him there because he reminds me to be kind to others every day, no matter what." And I thought that's the kind of
Oh,
protagonist that I want to write about. There's a lot of older characters who are sort of they're riding motorbikes or they're wearing stilettos or they're doing these things. But I wanted to write about an ordinary man who changes lives through kindness. So that was really where the seed of the story began. I've also always been fascinated by cases of mistaken identity. And I began to play with the idea of one man being able to redeem another man's life, even after death. And so it kind of all grew from there.
wow. You know, the kindness piece of Fred, and as he's going through this, and it's like, and it's like Bernard is like, I'm Fred, and it's like, and there's so much. I read it again. I recommended it for the book club for our library. I also recommended it for another book club I'm in,
Oh, thank you.
and we were just struck about the kindness and
Mm,
how that ripple of kindness changed other people's lives. So did you
yes.
find that with your own grandfather as well?
Absolutely. Everyone who met him was really touched by his kindness, and he made everyone around him feel that they were important, whether they were a waiter, whether they were a doctor, no matter who they were, he always had the time to listen to people and to really give them the benefit of the doubt. And yes, he and my grandmother, Dawn, were just one of those couples that truly, yeah, really left their mark on people.
That is amazing. And the other thing that struck me with the novel is with the elder care and how, as people get older, they're not listened to in the same way.
Mm, hmm.
And so even when he's saying, this is who I'm not, who I am, I'm Fred, this is who I am.
Mm,
And he's
hmm.
telling people what he is. And it's how, as people get older and they age, their significance changes. And you really touched on that a lot. That come
Yeah.
up a lot when you were working in elder care?
It did. I really found that a lot of older people were really overlooked simply because they were a nursing home resident or they were old,
Hmm.
that they were, there's sort of an invisibility that comes with aging. And some of the newer staff did confuse residents. People often say, oh, could this really happen, this case of mistaken identity? But from my experience, it actually could happen because yeah, when you become older, there is sort of this yeah phenomenon that happens, and particularly if someone has a dementia diagnosis, even if they're in their early stages of that diagnosis, some people can sort of just completely assume that they're incompetent or they don't know what they're talking about, which is absolutely not the case. So I really wanted to highlight that that older people are rich, full human beings that need to be respected and listened to, and just have so much to offer.
Well, that's what's really struck me in there. It's
Mm.
the kindness, yes, but also the forgotten. But for those who are listening, I got to tell you, it's rocking and rolling. There's so much humor in here, that you just have to laugh, the sexcapades or the trying to have the fitting room scene, there's so many laughter moments in here and fun that there was joy in this book. And the people that I've spoken to who have read it have really talked about how you brought joy to their life and the mood as they're reading this book. And yes, there are times you might want to sniff or two and cry,
Yeah,
but the laughter and just some of the comedic pieces were well done.
thank
how'd you
you.
balance the comedic elements?
It's the writing is very much me on a plate. So it's I'm really a very sentimental and emotional sort of person, but humor is also such a big part of my life. So it came quite naturally. I always think of the phrase, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But to make lemonade, you need sugar. And for me, humor is that sugar. It really balances out those sour elements, the sad elements, and, it makes the unbearable bearable. So I did really want to, I really wanted to dig deep and to go into those issues of dementia and grief and estrangement, all of those hard-hitting issues. But I find it's most powerful when you do that with a side of humor because one makes the other shine.
Well, it really did, and comes straight through the whole novel, and you do, like, even in the beginning, you just start laughing, and you're just like, oh, this could not happen, but you could see it happening.
Mm.
And I just, as I'm watching it unfold, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, So, what has been the reaction from readers and people what have you been hearing besides me gushing?
Yeah. Oh, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I think it's you'll be hard pressed to find someone that doesn't love Fred because he is so kind. I can't really imagine anyone having any sort of grievance with him. So overall, it has been, yeah, really positive. And I've also heard from many families who have a loved one in aged care or who have dementia. I've also heard from them, and they've found the book quite cathartic. They sort of have seen glimpses of their loved one or of themselves in the characters. So that's been a really lovely and special connection to have with readers.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And whether you have a loved one who has dementia or not, and you don't even have to have dementia, Alzheimer's, but
Mm,
just an
mm.
elderly parent or
Yes.
grandparent, because that's
Mhm.
where I really just had this affinity for Fred and for the characters in the nursing home and seeing that, I took care of my mom before she died, and she would go to a senior day program.
Mm.
And so while I was at work, she was there, and it was great. And it was a absolutely phenomenal program. And they would do things during the day, and I'd leave work to go visit. And she's like, she would complain that why didn't somebody else's daughter didn't come, and she can't believe their son didn't come. And I'm like, not everybody has a
Mm.
job that afforded them the ability that I could leave and come and do things and be there for
Absolutely.
you. So I
Mhm.
think that's why for so many reasons, this struck all the most beautiful notes for me, and I
Thank
love
you.
it. So what's next after Fred?
So I'm currently editing my second novel, which will be out next year. The title is just being decided now, but I can tell you that it's about a retired Michelin-star chef who now lives in a nursing home. He is grumpy, widowed, depressed, and he's actually ready to depart this earth. And he's planning on departing this earth. But before he goes, he wants to have one last meal that is not the nursing home mush. So he refuses for that to be his last meal. So he breaks into the nursing home kitchen to cook himself a final meal. And that reconnection with cooking and some other events, they spark a whole chain of events that bring joy both to him and the other residents. And there's a few twists and turns along the way. So I'm really looking forward. I'm really enjoying writing that. And yeah, can't wait for readers to meet the new characters.
Oh my goodness, that sounds delightful. Now, did you have to come up with recipes or find recipes? Are you adding that into the new book? And how's that?
Well, I love cooking myself, so I
Mhm.
have that interest already, and it was a great excuse to be able to go and eat all of these delicious cakes and call it research. But there aren't actual full recipes in the book, but I've been listening to the autobiographies of many sort of Michelin-star chefs or three-hatted chefs, as we have here in Australia. And that's been a really great way to sort of, connect with that industry. Yeah, and it's been really, really exciting. Loving cooking myself, it really helps to sort of get into those scenes.
That is so cool. I was talking with a cousin of mine, and we were talking about our old family recipes, and
Mm,
that things that nothing was written down. And it
yeah.
was, and she's a foodie, and she would watch her grandmother cook and would sit there and watching all that. I'd love to eat, so I was just on the eating thing. But we were talking about there was no measurement, right? So,
Mm,
but food is memory. And
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
when, we talk about certain foods and certain
Mm.
experiences, it's memory. And just hearing you talk now about this new novel, again, with elder care, and thinking if you're going to leave, what would you want to leave? food wise, what delights in foods. So that's incredible.
Yes, yes, and it does. Food has, I think, we sort of know now a lot about the connection of music with memory and with,
Mhm.
people that have Alzheimer's, that connection with music, but the book also highlights, the connection with food and with taste and with memory and how it's all associated. So, yeah, there's a lot of exploration of that and a lot of joy in that as well, as well as
Wow.
some sadder issues as well. It's the same with the, going the lemonade, the sour and
Yeah.
the sweet together.
Which I think it's a great, great way to resolve both of those,
Mm,
especially so many right now, there are generations there, you're either taking care of your elderly parents while raising children. And
yes.
so that, people are trying to balance both or trying
Mm,
to figure that out. So I think that that makes perfect sense, and to
yeah.
do this. It's a beautiful little niche you found yourself in.
I
Y-
feel very, very grateful.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. So tell me, how do you write? Are you a plotter or a pantser?
A little bit of both. So I like to have my sort of the key pillars, if you like, the key structural points. There's sort of about six or so of them that I have. So like I'll have, the opening and the first plot point, the midpoint, and the ending. The ending I always write quite early
Mhm.
on. And then, but in between those points, I'm a pantser, sort of, letting the characters introduce themselves to me and going from point to point. So I'm halfway between both.
Ah, you're somewhere in the middle. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. So now, what was the inspiration? What was the one thing Fred said to you that like you really stuck with you? As what was his character what did Fred tell you?
Do you mean my grandfather or the actual character himself?
The character.
The character.
Actually,
I
but
think
it can be both because I'm
yeah,
sure.
well, they're so they're tied together. Fred is definitely his own person. He's not a carbon copy of my grandfather by any means. But I think it was just that thing of, you know, being kind no matter what. So every situation that he finds himself in, he's always thinking of other people, like thinking, how can I help this person? How can I, hold space for them? That was kind of the constant message. So yeah.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. So if people wanted to find you, where do they, are you in social media, your
I
website? How do
am.
they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
Mhm.
It's Anna Johnston author, Johnston with a T, no E. And I also have a website which is www.annajohnstonauthor.com. So yeah, I'm quite active on social media and I always love hearing from readers. So it's wonderful to be able to connect to people all over the world.
Which is really great. And I'm here on in the States on Eastern
Mm.
Standard Time, and you are in Australia.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
so what time is it there?
It must be about 10:30 in the morning now.
10:30. Yes, see?
Yeah.
And it's like 8 o'clock. I love it. You're 13 hours ahead. I just,
Yes.
it has been absolutely wonderful. But before we go, I have a question for you. What's your favorite children's book?
It would be the Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. It's one of the first books that I read, and it's a real comfort read. I love the British countryside and all the little descriptions there. So a very an older children's
Oh, okay. I don't
um,
know that one.
Yes, it's
Uh,
there's a whole series about children that find this magical tree in the forest and they climb up and there's different lands at the top. So it's really nostalgic for me because I read it from a very was re I guess my parents would have read it to me at a very young age.
oh, nice. And thank you for that. And then if you were going to donate 3 books to a library, any books that you want, that you were going to say, these are the 3 books I think this library should have. And as another author asked me, not your own, what would they be?
Oh, that is so hard. That's really hard. One book that I've loved lately that's been a memoir is The Happiest Man on Earth,
Hmm.
which is by Eddie Jaku, who was a Holocaust survivor. So he's a little bit of a Fred himself. He went through these horrible experiences, but he was able to remain optimistic and, find joy in the smallest of things. So I think, that's one I recommend to anyone. What else? Oh,
Ah.
like three books. That's really hard. I love The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel
Hmm.
Joyce, but I even more so love the sequel to that, which is the Maureen Fry and the Angel of the North. It's so beautifully written, and it's just this gentle exploration. Maureen, unlike Harold, is not an instantly lovable character.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the exploration of her grief and things, I love that book. And it's not as well known as Harold, of course,
Right.
but that's beautiful. Oh, what else will I say? I can't say my own. And
I'll say that for you. So,
yeah. uh, I also love the 100 Years of Lenny and Margot. I don't know if you've heard about that,
yes.
but it's a beautiful book exploring this intergenerational friendship of these two women. So I will say that one, but I'm sure there's many, many more that that I
I
love and adore.
it was a question that I heard a while back and I decided to incorporate it because it was
Mm,
such a because usually I always ask, what are you reading? And
yes.
and who are you going to recommend now? But it's like, oh, if you got to donate 3 books, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, only three? Because you're trying
Yes,
to think,
I've got 100.
right? It's like, can I just keep donating to them?
Yes.
And it's so many, but no, those are delightful picks. And it so speaks to who you are as a person and the books that you're writing and where you are, that they just blend and fit right in. So I just think
Yeah.
this is absolutely incredible for that. Oh,
Thank you.
Anna, wow, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. This has been wonderful. It has been so much thanks to you, Anna, for sharing your
Oh,
journey and your insights.
thank you.
And I gotta say to my viewers, if you have not read The Borrowed Life of Frederick Fife, you pick it up now. You really, really have to. What are you waiting for? Check, we'll have it check out her links below. We'll have it there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about today and about your own Fred and your own kindness and what you're doing to be kind. Until next time, keep reading, keep dreaming, and keep sharing your own story. Goodbye.
Thank you.